administration is investing $110 million of federal COVID-19 relief funds into Wisconsin public schools, amounting to roughly $133 per Wisconsin student. The announcement comes after Republicans in the Wisconsin legislature stripped many of Governor Evers' proposals to invest some of Wisconsin's additional $4.4 billion in expected revenues over the next 3 years into education. Superintendent Underly said the assistance will not address all the problems Wisconsin public schools face, but the funds will be flexible for districts to address funding gaps as needed. On and off snowfall expected throughout the morning, with sunshine breaking through this afternoon, with a 30% chance for snow and a high today of 45 degrees. Slight overcast skies expected this evening with an overnight low of 28 degrees. You're listening to Double Radio.
Double Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Hour 2, the Friday edition. The 4 o'clock happy hour is getting happier up in here. And your participation, always appreciated. 844-967-2789. Molly Beck at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. That's the local paper in Milwaukee here, the paper of record in the state of Wisconsin. On World AIDS Day, Senator Ron Johnson said the 1980s crisis was overhyped by Anthony Fauci. Oh, Ron. Now, I don't know that Ron's evil per se, but he's definitely ignorant. I'm not sure. I mean, I used to have Ron down to the studio. Ron came on the show 6-7 years running. Some people out there are going like, yeah, we remember. Not our favorite episodes.
I wouldn't categorize him as stupid, though. I'd say willfully ignorant. But again, I think John Nichols pointed out the other day, if being smart was what Ron Johnson needed to get elected, that's exactly what he would do.
He'd be intelligent.
He would be intelligent if the people that were voting for him
get himself
wanted him to be intelligent. Yeah.
So you think he is, or perhaps just extending the words of John Nichols, you think he's just playing the fool so that he can go and be just like the folks that he's absolutely nothing like. Real quick, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson this week said the nation's top health official overhyped the threat of AIDS during the 1980s. Stunning activist who described a terrifying decade when tens of thousands of people died while government leaders were slow to act. The Oshkosh Republican said Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases since 1984, overstated AIDS when it first began killing gay Americans inexplicably, and that he was doing the same with COVID-19 today. Well, that's the parallel. I mean, Ron, I didn't know you back in 1984. I was just a teenager then. But I strongly suspect the vast majority of the Reagan Republicans, I mean, think about it. Ronald Reagan was not exactly a sympathetic figure to the gay community, barely even acknowledged that people could get AIDS. Let me read on. Here is what Johnson said on the Foxy News with Brian Kilmeade. He created all kinds of fear. Johnson, apparently talking about Fauci. He created all kinds of fear, saying it could affect the entire population.
It did.
When it couldn't. Well, Ron, of course, is saying that Fauci, and initially, and I've seen other reporting of this, back in the early 1980s, Fauci didn't explicitly say you could only get AIDS from sexual contact or intravenous drug use. The origins, the transmissibility of the disease was much less clear then. But I don't recall any Republicans crying on behalf of the gay community and out there arm in arm trying to what? Better society? Help solve the AIDS crisis? I didn't see a lot of Republicans. At least history doesn't remind me of a lot of Republicans. And in fact, I think it was Roy Cohn, you know, the guy that was associated with Senator Joe McCarthy, the attorney, the notorious, eventually disbarred late in life, that attorney. Well, he was the mentor to Donald Trump. He taught Donald Trump everything he knows. Deflect, fight, fight, fight. Sue, sue, sue. All those tactics. Never concede. Well, that all came from Roy Cohn. And they were big buddies. Right up until Roy Cohn started showing that he was dying of AIDS. And then Donald Trump, of course, abandoned him because he has no human empathy. And, you know, you're only a friend as long as you're not, you know, transmissible.
If you want to know about the story about that, check out Angels in America. It was played by Tony Kushner. Really good and involves Roy Cohn. Also, if Ron Johnson saying stupid things again gets people to go and look into the Republican response or what Republicans' role was in the AIDS epidemic, it won't
convince Republicans.
Of course not. But my point is, I think that should be explored. We should talk about that. Let's go ahead. Let's shine a light on the wonderful Republican response to the AIDS epidemic.
Johnson's comments were made on World AIDS Day, a national day of remembrance that began in 1988 after tens of thousands of people had died in the U.S. of AIDS in a span of 7 years. Here's a quote. The timing of this was crass and hurtful and harmful to people. What happened in the 80s was the exact opposite of hype, said Brian Bond, the executive director of the PFLAG National, which advocates for LGBTQ Americans and their families. Again, a quote from Bond, who is HIV positive. It is hard to believe that it comes from the mouth of a public servant whose job is to look out for the well-being of all the citizens and be mindful of words matter who they hurt. Johnson never really cared much about who got hurt. Hell, do you remember before Ron Johnson was a political figure, before he ever ran for U.S. Senate, because he had never served, public office. But do you recall what he did go out there and advocate for? The shielding of the Milwaukee County Archdiocese, the shielding of the assets through the bankruptcy codes from the victims of priest abuse, of clergy abuse. Ron Johnson, as a Protestant, went out there and gave testimony and said, well, hell, if you're going to hold the organization accountable, I mean, who amongst us is ever going to be able to have a organization? The Boy Scouts, well, they also had their problems, as fate would have it, right, Ron?
Having this all come out into public has exposed things that didn't need to be exposed.
It's always his problem. It's always his problem.
I just always, I found it a little indefensible that Ron came out and basically defended the Catholic Archdiocese against the victims of clergy abuse. Said, here's how they should be able to shield their assets from the penalty, from the claims. So that's how Ron sort of ventured into politics. See if there's more here. Johnson told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel he was referring to the May 1983 study of 8 New Jersey families Fauci was involved in that concluded 8 children and infants with immune system diseases who were born into families with well-recognized risks for AIDS. So this is a very specific dynamic, right? Fauci wrote it was not known whether the diseases were in fact AIDS and not a congenital disease, but that some appeared to meet the criterion. The study reported on 8 children with a disease closely resembling acquired immune deficiency syndrome, and that some cases might be AIDS. However, public health officials have been cautious in their acceptance of the reported sickness as being true cases of AIDS, the New York Times reported at that time. Back in 1983, Ron, there were disclaimers on the articles back then. Welcome back. Fauci wrote in the Journal of American Medical Association following the study that it is possible the virus could be vertically transmitted from mother to baby before and after birth. Perhaps even more important is the possibility that routine close contact is within a family household can spread the disease. Well, we now know that that's probably not the case, right? We've discovered that because the science has advanced and there's many more cases, and we know that people don't transmit AIDS back and forth through handshakes or hugs or close proximity.
You're saying that the science evolved from the 80s as far as AIDS goes? That's crazy. It's almost exactly the same as when they go after Fauci for saying you didn't necessarily need to wear a mask early on in the coronavirus problem because we weren't completely sure exactly what was going on there. But yet later on, it evolved.
You know how long it took Fauci to correct the record? All of 2 months.
2
months later, Fauci was quoted in the Baltimore Sun saying it was impossible to contract the virus by social contact, like sitting in the same room or in the same bus as a person with AIDS. Johnson characterized the two statements as flip-flopping. Here is a statement. If he felt it was so preposterous on June 26, why had he raised the possibility and stoked fear less than 2 months earlier? Unfortunately, by June 26, the damage had already been done.
What damage?
I'm not clear. Fauci did not immediately return a call for email seeking comment. Responding to an evolving health crisis, Mike Gifford, president and CEO of Vivint Health, which provides health care services to patients with HIV and AIDS, said scientists and public health leaders respond to health crises as they unfold in an effort to get their best information to the public as quickly as possible to prevent death and illness, which can mean changing guidance as they learn more about a health crisis. Not a crisis, just a cough. Dr. Fauci has demonstrated that throughout his career of always providing us the best information possible. And when new discoveries and new information come forward, being a reliable source for that information. And does that mean that we learn and we grow? Absolutely. And the message has changed? Absolutely. But in doing that, Dr. Fauci has always provided us with the best information possible, Gifford said. And what we've seen in his leadership is what we need in leaders. And that is to take the best information, share it with our constituents, share it with the general public, and update it as we learn more. And that's what happened with Dr. Fauci in the HIV pandemic. And it happened with Dr. Fauci with the COVID-19 pandemic. And thank goodness it happened. Well, let's not forget, Ron Johnson's been out there seeking to educate the public as well. Had Senate subcommittee hearings on the ivermectin, the pasting. Ron Johnson is a paster, but he's going to attack a doctor who took 2 months to discover that AIDS was not transmissible through household contact, so changed his guidance to the public. You know, flip-flopped, as Ron would call it.
You know what I'd say flip-flopping is? Saying you're not going to run for another term and then running for another term.
Oh, you mean like Ron Johnson is now threatening to do, even though he was on this very radio program, The Devil's Advocates. Ron used to come around and he said, oh, I'm done. Said he was done when he ran for re-election back in 2016. But now he says, oh, God, who else can carry the mantle if not me? You know, we need guys like Ron Johnson leading this nation or not. More devils.
So, Obamacare is still in place, and we've doubled the debt. I don't feel like my time here has been particularly successful.
What would you say you do here?
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
63 Americans a day die by gun suicide. By storing our guns safely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo, we can give our loved ones a second chance at life. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
If doctors, nurses, and grocery store clerks can wear a mask for 10 or 12-hour shifts, you can wear a mask for an hour or less when you go to the store. Do your part. Mask up, America.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents that make a perfect holiday gift. Plus, at Wisco Home Goods, we believe in giving back. With our Do Good, Smell Good campaign, a portion of the proceeds go to local charities. So support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition, coming back from the 420 break. Fancy Brian's favorite time of the day. We got new polling in the U.S. Senate race, great state of Wisconsin. Those that would hope to oppose Ron Johnson. Let's call this the good team. But there's lots of people vying to be the top of the ticket. And saw this information first being shared by Mandela Barnes's campaign. And Mandela is currently the lieutenant governor in the state of Wisconsin. And Mandela, I guess, right now would have to be acknowledged as the front runner. He certainly has the highest name recognition, although there are other candidates that do currently hold statewide office. Specifically, I mean, Sarah Godlewski, she is the state treasurer. And there are others that hold, prominent office, like the Outagamie County executive, Tom Nelson. And, there's the Bucks executive, Alex Lassery. I'm sure you've seen his ads. The polling would seem to indicate that lots of Wisconsinites have seen his ads. And then there's this whole second tier, Jillian Bettino and others. We have Peter Pekarski's ads right here on Devil Radio 92.7. They play out here. A little frustrated for our pal Peter. They didn't even poll Peter. But anyways, there is new polling out. Data for Progress polled 524 likely Democratic primary voters in Wisconsin. They did this utilizing text messages. And this polling comes from mid-November 2021. So who do you like? That's the question. First question being asked. And Mandela Barnes, and I'm not clear, but this seemingly is polling that his campaign has embraced. So Mandela Barnes is led here in the crosstabs. And amongst Mandela's support, very favorable. The top line, 35% of Wisconsinites, Democratic primary probable voters hold a very favorable view of Mandela. Somewhat favorable, 27%. But his total favorable rating, 62% amongst probable Democratic primary voters. That's pretty good. Unfavorable for Mandela, 9%. That puts him currently top line at a plus 53%. So, Mandela's feeling pretty damn good about that. His campaign is sharing this polling, no doubt, because they feel really good about the outcomes. And here are a few interesting notes. Again, the favorability rating of Mandela Barnes. Amongst females, Mandela is plus 56. Amongst males, plus 52. Under 45, the young people, plus 48. Over 45, I find myself in that group, plus 56. Favorability for Mandela. No college, plus 50. And amongst the college graduates, Mandela's a plus 60. That is his highest favorable rating. Those listed under the college category. And then there's Sarah Godlewski. She, the other one holding statewide office, state treasurer, Sarah Godlewski. Amongst the very favorable, her top line, 9%. Somewhat favorable, 12%. Haven't heard enough to say 74%. So she's got a
that's bad. She's great when she gets in front of people.
Yes, she is.
That means she's not in front of people.
Well, I've said she's got a lot of it. And my understanding is Sarah's been running digital ads, but it has not had the necessary impact, at least not now. Favorability for Sarah Godlewski, the state treasurer, plus 15. I mean, for, let's say an incumbent, that'd be a hell of a good number. But haven't heard enough to say 74%. So a lot of Democrats don't have an opinion of Sarah Godlewski. Who's next? Alex Lasry. Now, this is the man on the move, at least in the polling. Alex Lasry is certainly moving up. His top line, very favorable, 10% on the top line. That means amongst all polled. Somewhat favorable, 20%. Haven't heard enough to say 62%, but Alex's favorability ratings up to plus 22. And I would say if anyone has moved up in the polling, it's been Lasry. And Lasry, who obviously is a Milwaukee Bucks executive on leave and perhaps, born under a kind star, let's say. His father, in part, owns the Bucks. Well, Lasry spent a lot of money helping to push these numbers up. And you know who's really, really starting to fall in love with Alex Lasry? The 45 and over set. He's a plus 26% amongst them. That is his highest column. Tom Nelson doing okay. He's plus 15, top line, bottom line. Tom Nelson, 76% of Democratic probable voters haven't heard enough about Tom Nelson, the Allegheny County executive. Jillian Bettino, she's appeared on this show. She is way down in the, just people know who she is. 91% have not heard enough about her. She is a Wausau-based radiologist, a very dynamic human being, new to politics. She is a net favorable. 6 find her favorable, 3 find her unfavorable, plus 3, but 91% have not heard enough about her. Stephen Olacara, also a dynamic young man. I met him through Barb Lawton. She's very, very high on the Stephen Olacara. Very favorable, 1%. Somewhat. So anyways, his favorability is 5, his unfavorable 3s plus 2, but that means 92% of voters don't really have an opinion yet of Stephen Olacara. Adam Murphy, he's also sort of a non-issue, at least in the current polling. Adam Murphy at 93%. I got to tell you, I have not had the opportunity to speak with Adam Murphy yet. I regret that our pal Peter is not yet appearing in the polling. They may not have asked about Peter. He's been advertising right here on Devil Radio. I find that to be a favorable thing. Thank you, Peter. But wonder what you think, listeners. Devil Radio family, the U.S. Senate race. Mandela, the front runner. Are you happy if it's just Mandela at the finish line? Can we end the primary process, 8-9 months early? We call him Mandela the winner. That's kind of what happened with Tony Evers. Tony Evers, always the front runner, never really got challenged and never saw his lead erode during the entire course of the primary. But of course, Evers was not running against any billionaires, kids. And Alex Lasry, he's going up the charts with the bullet. He's probably number 2 in the polling right now. You're number 1 in our hearts when you call the Devil's Advocates, 844-967-2789, the Friday Happy Hour. It continues.
Man, you're so bad.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
I'm bad, and that's good. I will never be good, and that's not bad.
Kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
I find your lack of Devil Radio 92.7 disturbing. Do not fail me again.
At Knuckleheads, our knowledgeable staff knows the ins and outs of CBD. Whether you're a veteran of cannabis like the Devil Radio team or a first-time customer, the Knuckleheads team has the information to answer all your CBD questions. Never heard of a tincture? We got you covered. Looking for something to address those achy joints? We got just the thing. Stop into our new location at 520 State Street and mention Devil Radio to our knowledgeable staff to get 15% off your order today. Knuckleheads, your one-stop shop for CBD in Madison.
Gifting season is upon us, and here's an opportunity to spread the holiday joy. Ethical Trading Company is fighting to end human trafficking in the poorest areas of the world by providing a marketplace for artisans who've been freed from modern-day slavery or avoid being trafficked through this partnership. As a volunteer-ran nonprofit, every dollar spent in our physical or online store makes an impact in ridding the world of exploitation and in the lives of our artisans to perform dignified work. Check out our wide range of fair trade gifts by going to ethicaltradeco.com. Again,
Parents charged in Michigan. I'm Jackie Quinn with an AP News Minute. Prosecutor Karen McDonald is filing involuntary manslaughter charges against the parents of 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley, who killed 4 classmates Tuesday in school. She alleges they knew he had drawn photos of a gun and someone bleeding.
Both James and Jennifer Crumbley failed to ask their son if he had his gun with him or where his gun was located.
The Crumbleys have not yet surrendered, but their lawyer says they will. President Biden signed into law the stopgap spending bill to help keep the government funded. He's also celebrating today's jobs report, showing a 210,000 gain, although lower than expected.
Unemployment rate has now fallen by more than 2 percentage points since I took office. That's the fastest decline in a single year on record.
He says that raspiness comes from a cold. Stocks fell again. The NASDAQ lost nearly 300. Pennsylvania reporting its first Omicron case, a man in his 30s from Philadelphia. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Are you wasting money on a timeshare you rarely use? Cancel it with Titan Exit Group. Get a free consultation and see how they can stop the never-ending maintenance fees and mortgage payments. In fact, if your timeshare contract is not terminated, you own nothing, so you have nothing to lose. But those monthly fees. Get legally released from your timeshare, 100% guaranteed. Call now for your free consultation at 800-200-0894. 800-200-0894.
Dell Technologies' biggest business sale of the year has arrived. Step up your vision with top tech up to 50% off during their Cyber Monday event. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Plus, get incredible savings on Windows 11 PCs, along with servers, monitors, and docks, all with free shipping. There's also special financing with Dell Business Credit. Get started by contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Thursday, organizers for the Center of Black Excellence and Culture announced the design and fundraising they say will make the proposed $38 million project a reality and a model for other cities across the country. The project is Black-inspired, Black-designed, and Black-led, and the first of its kind in Madison that looks to provide a space to celebrate and learn about the Black community and is on track to open in 2023. For the first time ever, the Wisconsin National Guard has been called in to assist 4 central Wisconsin health facilities that assist people with disabilities or mental illness. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services made the request due to the understaffing the 4 facilities are facing months into the COVID-19 pandemic. Announced yesterday, FPC Live, a branch of Frank Productions based in Madison, plans to build a new music venue along Milwaukee's lakefront, south of the Summerfest grounds. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom!
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the 4 o'clock happy hour. It's rolling on. And your Friday grievances, they're always welcome here. 844-967-2789. Got a little breaking news out of the state of Wisconsin. Scott Bauer, the Associated Press, reporting Wisconsin's Democratic Governor Tony Evers vetoed 5 Republican authored anti-abortion bills on Friday. I mean, anyone outside the state of Wisconsin, I got to tell you, when you've got a Democratic governor and you continue to roll out anti-abortion bills, one after the other, I mean, you're showing your cards. Everybody knows what you believe, Republicans, at this late hour. Evers, who is making his support for abortion rights a key plank in his 2022 re-election campaign, has been widely expected to veto the measures the GOP-controlled legislature passed in October. Here's the quote from the governor via tweet. I've said it before and I'll say it again today. As long as I'm governor, I will veto any legislation that turns back the clock on reproductive rights in the state. And that's a promise. Tony Evers making promises. Republicans do not have enough votes in the legislature to override the vetoes. Republican legislative leaders did not immediately return messages. One bill, which Evers also vetoed in 2019, that's like 2 years ago, GQP, would impose criminal penalties on doctors who failed to give medical care in the extremely rare circumstance in which a baby is born alive following an abortion attempt. I don't think that, yes, that would be extremely rare. Violators would be guilty of a felony punishable of up to 6 years in prison. The bill also would make intentionally causing the death of a child born alive as a result of an abortion a felony by punishable by life in prison. Well, you'd call that murder, wouldn't you? Do you need a separate statute? Doctors insist the proposal is a solution in search of a problem. They and other opponents say babies are almost never born alive, during failed abortive attempts, and in rare instances in which they are. Doctors are already ethically and legally bound to try and keep them alive. Oh, yeah. The bill's supporters say the measures would remove any gray areas in the law. There are no gray areas in the law. If you got a live baby on the table, that's a live baby. You do not kill the live baby. Do you need a separate law to say murder's wrong? A second bill Evers vetoed would require doctors to provide the parents of fetuses and embryos that test positive for a congenital condition information about the condition. A third proposal he vetoed would prohibit abortions based on fetuses' sex, race, or national origin. Yeah, I don't like the fact that I'm having a white kid. Come on. Vetoes also vetoed that measure in 2019. Here's a quote from Senator Julian Bradley. He's a rookie. Killing an unborn baby because of their sex, race, or disability is not health care. This is a radical pro-discrimination veto from Governor Evers. Wisconsinites deserve to know life is valued whether they are a man or a woman, black or white, or have a disability. Veto 5 bills. Tony Evers vetoed 5 bills. The bills come as abortive rights supporters are considered that the U.S. Supreme Court could overturn its 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that essentially legalized abortion nationwide before a fetus can survive outside the womb, which is generally around the 24th week of pregnancy. A Wisconsin law enacted in 1849. This was only made a state in 1848, folks. The abortion law that would go into effect was created a year later. I'm sure it's very current. Enacted in 1849 would make abortion illegal, but it has been unenforceable since Roe v. Wade's decision. The ban would take effect again if Roe v. Wade is overturned. So it would already be illegal. And all indications are Roe v. Wade, it's getting overturned. Going to talk about that. But first, Mark from the SAC, 844-967-2789. Mark, a reliable friend. Welcome back. What do you got for us?
Well, you talk about the DeSantos trying to form his own evil little death squad down there. But let's remember Scott Walker, activated, the state patrol and whoever else you could drag in, the game wardens and all that to protect himself from the perceived threat of people in the Capitol protesting during the Act 10 protest.
You mean when Scott Walker had the stormtroopers at the state Capitol arrest guys like you and I and journalists and visitors, tourists, minors, teenagers? No one was exempt from arrest at the Wisconsin State Capitol as long as Scott Walker was being protested in song.
Yeah, well, I didn't get arrested, but I was there singing most of the time. But it's just
come on,
sad
man! You've never been to jail for justice, Mark?
that I sang the song plenty of times, but it's just sad. What are these guys going to? They're going to dress up in first order uniforms, with a nod toward the talk about the Star Wars thing going on. They're serving the Dark Emperor. It's just sad that. Or they're going to go for black shirts or brown shirts. It is just, I see this popping up all over the country. And for my sisters out there that they better stock up on birth control pills and all that kind of thing. Because what's next from the Republicans? Banning female orgasms because they don't approve of that.
Well, Mark, I'm not clear that any Republican has ever given a female an orgasm, so I don't think they have to ban them. 844-967-2789. I don't know that for fact, but you can see it in most of the wives, faces. They long for something more. Wisco Paul, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay, Trudy. That's a hard call to follow.
Yeah, you think Tonette's ever had the big O?
I'm not going to wade into that one, but
you don't have to, Paul. I'm sorry. That mark is so inappropriate.
Yeah, well, first of all, my grievance. Actually, there's so many of them to pick from. I guess Gableman. That would be my grievance.
Do you think he's evil, Paul? I mean, he's pompous. He's a lot of things, but do you think he's evil? Do you think he is malicious in his intent? Do you think he knows how corrupt he is? Or do you think he looks at himself in the mirror and goes, damn, I'm sexy? What do you think it is, Paul?
I'm afraid he probably looks in the mirror and says, damn, I'm sexy, which is wrong. He's evil. This is just a Trump thing anyway, but that's my grievance. The man is throwing away just south of $1 million, and it could go higher. To check in something.
But he's throwing away our money, Paul. He's not throwing away his money. He's throwing away our money.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, I'm going to wade in on the Senate election on the Democratic side. I was lucky enough to meet Sarah Wilski at the Jade Monkey, I do believe. Very dynamic. There.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she's just a very dynamic individual to talk to. I missed Alex, and that was downtown. So I don't think it can go wrong with any of them when you compare him to Johnson. But my top pick, because I met her, talked to her, I could be changed, would be Sarah, because I just, you said it before, she's just got it. And, but I wouldn't be unhappy with any of them, Crudy. So,
well, there's a lot.
You have a great weekend.
Thank you, Paul. You as well, my friend. There's a lot to like about Sarah Godlewski and Alex Lasry, as mentioned, at least in the newest polling. Alex Lasry is the candidate on the move, but Alex Lasry has been the one that, let's just say, has invested the most money in getting the word out. 844-967-2789. Your Friday grievances aired here, especially you Republican women. I know you've got some grievances.
I just want to throw it out there that I don't necessarily think giving the big O is really the thing that distinguishes. I think it's that Democrats care about giving the big O, whereas Republicans are like, he didn't come in.
I won the race again.
Yeah, exactly.
Turning very slightly topically from, Republican wife's lack of orgasms to an opinion piece here at the Washington Post. Paul Waldman, it's time to say it. The conservatives on the Supreme Court, they lied to all of us. They lied. Yes, I'm talking about the conservative justices on the Supreme Court and the abortion rights those justices have now made clear they will eviscerate. They weren't just evasive or vague or deceptive. They lied. They lied to Congress and to the country, claiming they either had no opinions at all about abortion or that their beliefs were simply irrelevant on how they would rule. They would be wise and pure, unsullied by crass policy preferences, offering impeccably objective readings of the Constitution. It was a lie. We went through the same routine in the confirmation hearings of every one of these justices. When Democrats tried to get them to state plainly their views on Roe v. Wade, they took two approaches. Some tried to convince everyone that they would leave it untouched. Others, those already on record proclaiming opposition to abortion rights, suggested they had undergone a kind of intellectual factory reset, enabling them to assess the question anew with unspoiled mind, one concerned only with the law. Unfortunately, that lie was and is still enabled by the news media, even in the face of what we saw in the court on Wednesday, when at least 5 of the 6 conservatives made clear their intention to overturn Roe. Press accounts continued offering euphemisms and weasel words about inconsistencies or contradictions. But sometimes The right puts its purposes in the open. There was particularly striking exchange between Laura Ingraham and Senator Ted Cruz. I don't know if you know this, but he's a Republican from Texas.
Freedom!
On the Foxy News, where Ingraham grew inexplicably enraged over the mere possibility that Roe might not be overturned. Here's a quote. If we had 6 Republican appointees on this court, she said, after all the money that's been raised, the Federalist Society, all those big fat cat dinners, I'm sorry, I'm pissed about this. If this court with 6 justices cannot do the right thing here, then Republicans should blow it up and pass some kind of law limiting the court's authority. I would do that in a heartbeat, Cruz responded. In other words, we bought this court and we better get what we paid for. Like his Republican colleagues, that same Ted Cruz repeatedly insisted at confirmation hearings that the very idea that a Republican appointee might have a political agenda was deeply offensive to whatever fine nominee was before them. So let's review what those justices, now treating women's bodily autonomy with such naked contempt, had to say during their confirmation hearings. The newest justice, Amy Coney Barrett, was already on record stating that abortion is a moral evil. But in her hearing, she insisted, I don't have an agenda. Asked by a Republican senator whether it would be possible to predict how she would rule on subjects like abortion, Barrett responded, it's not possible. I'd be kind of like a legal pundit, she said. I don't think anyone wants judges to function that way. That must be why Republicans were so desperate to get her on the court and so rapturous with joy when she was confirmed, because they had no idea how she might rule. Then there's Brett Kavanaugh, who insisted in his hearing that Roe was settled precedent because it had been reaffirmed many times over in the past 45 years. Senator Susan Collins emerged from the meeting with Kavanaugh and said he'd assured her that Roe is settled law. She gave him her vote. Neil Gorsuch was as pure of mind as the others, asked whether the Constitution protects intimate personal decisions on subjects like abortion and marriage. He said, I have never expressed personal views as a judge on the subject, and that is because my personal views do not matter. They're lying. They have lied. And now they're on the court, all 6 of them. And Laura Ingraham, don't worry, don't be pissed, Laura. What you bought and paid for, they're going to deliver. Maybe not Roberts. He might be the leaker. Might be a 5-4 decision. But they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. They're insistent. And Republicans here in the state of Wisconsin, they're gleeful to roll back all protections. Tony Evers says he will protect a woman's reproductive rights in 2022. Ironically, female candidate for the Republican side, Rebecca Clayfish, well, she says just the opposite. Come back, more Devil's Advocates. One last segment for your Friday grievances. Light them up, 844-967-2789.
The courts agree with us, too. What's going on in this country? Freedom!
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, Don from Wisco Home Goods here. Jeremy and I handcraft our 100% non-toxic candles from locally sourced materials in our Madison, Wisconsin facility. Wisco Home Goods candles come in a variety of unique blends and scents that you're sure to love. Add a little warmth to your home as the days get colder with one of our Midnight Cypress or Up North candles. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing candles and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
is dedication?
People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike and you didn't? I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The tear gas changed the crowd's demeanor. There was an air of disbelief as people realized that the police whom they supported were firing on them. "What are you doing? We support you," someone yelled. All of a sudden, pro-police people felt the police were attacking them, and they didn't know why. The pro-police crowd went from disbelief and confusion to anger.
The police instigated the crowd, right? The police were the oppressors here. So, Ron, Black Lives Matter?
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition. We allow you to air your grievances right here, and there's still time. You better start dialing. There's the first, 844-967-2789. A lot of these anti-abortion laws, especially the one in Texas, they don't have carve-outs for rape or incest. And I would just point out, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, has been alleged to have sexually abused a number of women. And actually, there are legal proceedings going on in one of the alleged rapes that Donald Trump is accused of perpetrating. On Friday, a federal appeals court in New York heard arguments over whether the Justice Department could take over the defense of former President Donald Trump in the defamation suit by advice columnist E. Jean Carroll, who has accused him of raping her in a department store in the late 1990s. One of the pivotal moments of the arguments, according to BuzzFeed News, came when one judge asked Trump's legal counsel how the former president's statements against Carroll were part of his official duties. Here's what the judge allegedly said. I guess it's not allegedly, it's reportedly. In one interview responding to Carroll's accusation, he was quoted as saying, here's what Trump said. "I'll say it with great respect. Number one, she's not my type. Number two, it never happened." That comment jumped out to Second Circuit Court Judge Denny Chen, who pressed Trump's personal attorney, Alina Habba, to explain why the court should find that making that kind of comment was within Trump's scope of employment as president. The question asked by the fine judge, who's he serving when he says something like, "She's not my type"? Is he serving the United States of America when he makes that statement? Chen, who was confirmed under President Barack Obama, asked. According to the report, Habba replied that it was part of his job as president because he had to respond to Carroll's allegations to the extent it affected his ability to serve. The Justice Department announced in June, and this is the Joe Biden Justice Department, announced in June that it was continuing to try and take over the case. A defamation case, a civil case against the former president and the current DOJ is still trying to stand in for the defendant, effectively letting the man off the hook for rape. I don't get it, Merrick Garland. I don't get it, Joe Biden. The Justice Department announced in June that it was continuing to try to take over the case. In September, they asked the court to stay all proceedings, but that request was denied. So they're moving forward and, she's not my type. That's very presidential. 844. Yes, sir.
One, how does that happen? That's obviously not relevant whatsoever.
Have you seen her face?
But two, I don't know about you, but when I was single, I went against my type all the time. Although I didn't really have it. I guess I didn't have many standards at the time. But my point is that if somebody said, yes, I'm always about that. Oh, wait, that's the point. With Donald Trump, someone said no.
Well, you're not a billionaire, son. Best I can tell. You might dress better if you were. But
no.
Here's the other thing I would say. Being a man whore in your late teens or early 20s, fancy Brian, and no doubt you probably
I'm just saying it wouldn't hold up in any court, really.
What, that she's not my type?
Yeah.
Look at her. Look at her face. I guess if I had a point, it's that Donald Trump thought they were all his type, that all women wanted Donald Trump, right? Do you remember the Access Hollywood would video him and Billy Bush. Oh, I tic-tac up because I just got to kiss him. And when you're a star, they let you do it. 844-967-2789. The fact that the current Department of Justice under Joe Biden and Merrick Garland continue to defend and want to let the former president off the hook for allegedly raping a woman in a department changing room, I don't understand. And this is a civil case. He's not going to jail for it. But the fact that the federal government would want to stand in and they continue to take this tact, very troubling. Too crudy. 844-967-2789. Dick from Madison, welcome back. What do you got?
Well, my grievances, I brought this up with Matt, I think Wednesday morning, how upset I am with the evangelicals. I think they're the biggest hypocrites on the face of the earth. That, I mean, you're going to align yourself with the guy that Epstein's, this gal that's on trial right now, is linking.
Oh, the evangelicals, Dick, you misread. They are ecstatic with Trump's presidency because they don't care.
Know that.
I mean, they're the whole forgive the sinner.
I know. Okay.
You get all that. They got what they wanted. They got their 3 justices, Dick, but I'll let you talk.
That's not where I was going. I was going to point out how hypocritical they are. And I was trying to with Matt the other morning, and he basically defended these people. And I'm like, dude, they are responsible. How can they even look in the mirror, Kurt?
Now, I want to clarify. You're talking about the Department of Justice in their defense of Trump in this defamation suit, Dick?
No, I'm just talking about evangelicals that voted in the block they did for Trump. They knew what he was. This guy, now you've got a supposedly a 14-year-old that was paraded around in front of him. And yet, on the one issue, abortion, we're going to vote for him because he'll stop that. Listen, this guy is the most pathetic, evil person that ever walked the face of the earth. And every one of those people that voted for him for that one issue are every bit as pathetic as he is.
Dick, I'm going to put you down for Trump is evil. Evangelicals, perhaps, at least according to Dick, also evil in that they would support this fallible, hero worshipped cult leader, Donald Trump. But I do think the evangelicals, they were just in it for the justices. They are, in many cases, single issue voters, although a lot of them, when you look at some of their actual ideology, it's seemingly, it's sort of a white Christianity. Thank God Jesus was, a white man walking around. They believe in their lily white, blue-eyed Jesus. He's the good one. But evangelicals, and I used to go to a Baptist church. I consider myself a born again in that I have affirmed that I believe there is a Jesus Christ and perhaps he is our savior. But the evangelicals, at least my experience, they're big ass sinners. I mean, when an evangelical would fall, they would fall hard. They would fall big. And there were these big secrets every year, every 6 months, so-and-so, the deacon at the church, well, he's been thrown in jail for child porn, that kind of stuff. Not my church per se, but you get the point. Evil. I don't know. Maybe. Thanks for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Stick around. Earl Ingram's next. Never evil, always good. Devil Radio 92.7. Thank you for listening.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Don't mess with the devil, buddy. We're number one. We beat anybody. We're the devils. The devils.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res.